We all have that one friend, the one who says exactly what's on their mind, no matter what. And that's Shital Mars.
That's right. Every week, my friends and I dive into whatever's on my mind: sports, politics, pop culture, even my own struggles, you name it. If I'm thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Unfiltered, unapologetic, and just a little dangerous. Get ready for the wild ride that is Shital Weapon. You've been warned.
Welcome. I don't know how you made it here. Actually, I do know how you made it here. It's because I told you to come here. You have to know at least me to have made it here. I don't know what episode this is. I honestly can't even. I think 6 is as high as a number I can actually count to now. So I have no idea what episode this is. But I'm Shital Mars, Lethal Shital if you're nasty, and this is Biggie Trog. He's my brother and my partner in crime on this. And every week we get together and we talk about nonsense because that's all that's in my head. I have nothing else better to talk about than absolutely random bullshit. And he's just fine with it.
That's what I'm here for.
He's here to listen to me rant for a whole hour and some odd minutes because he has nothing better to do. So last week we talked all politics, and now you could talk for we could probably even go further into that. I don't know when this is coming out, but I actually went deep into researching AI and stuff. You know, you go down that Joe Rogan and everything rabbit hole, and you start listening to everybody else's podcast. You start doom scrolling on TikTok up until Sunday, up until like Sunday morning, and then it came back on. Don't worry, TikTok is back. But I started doing all of that and listening to all of this stuff from basically the top 5 CEOs of tech giants. So then you got what? Google, Apple, Amazon, Meta, and Twitter, Tesla, or X, whatever the fuck. Like, I can't call it X. It's so stupid. But like, if you start listening to them, and whether it's current or former CEOs of every major tech giant in the United States, and they start talking about why they're placing such heavy bets into AI, and not just AI, like it goes further than AI, it's generative AI. And you have to know the difference to appreciate what it is they're trying to accomplish with it. But if you listen to everybody talking about it, they all paint a really, really rosy freaking picture of what the world with AI looks like, right? Wouldn't it be amazing if all you had to do was say, like that clap on, clap off lights thing? Like, what if you just told your computer, hey, computer, give me financial statements, and it just did it? And it would be amazing. Hey, computer, give me a diagnosis. It would be amazing. Hey, computer, read this scan and tell me what you think, and that would be amazing. It's a very Star Trek like world, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I think about AI, I think about Star Trek a lot. I think about uh, I think about data and
Right.
somebody who is alive. I think about alive, and then being able to spit out information much faster than me, uh, analyze things much faster, and do so of its own will.
Right. So it's interesting where we've come to AI, and then you can even extend this to quantum computing and what that means for encryption. Like, a lot of things are going to come in the next 4 to 5 years. People were thinking this was going to be a 2040 problem. And so they were preparing for it to be a 2040 problem. This is a now problem. But before we get into this, I actually had a funny thought, and this is going to set the stage for everything. No, it's actually a non sequitur. It has nothing to do with anything. But um, I was watching Mark Zuckerberg on Rogan because he recently went on there,
Mm.
and he's, because Mark Zuckerberg had his glow up. Now he's rocking his Justin Timberlake hair and his big chain. He's ready to start his, tech giant boy band.
Oh
Like,
man.
believe me, he is the youngest, hottest member of the tech giant boy band. Like, he's the lead singer. It's him and Elon Musk. And so now he's got this like big black t-shirt because he used to wear like gray t-shirt or hoodie and jeans, and he had that weird buzz cut and he looked like an automaton from Disney. Like, oh, hello, I swear I'm a real person. Like, that's how he was for as what, 20 years. That's how he's been. How long is Facebook? Over 25 years, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Facebook's been around for fucking ever. And so he's on there and I'm looking at him and I'm going to say all sorts of illegal allegations. None of this is true. All of this is rumor and supposition. I have no evidence whatsoever for what I'm about to say, except for the fact that I'm looking at his fucking face. So all I could think is one of three things has happened. The first and most likely thing that has happened is after his kind of series of disastrous appearances in front of Congress, where everybody's like, that dude is not a human being. Like, that dude is basically a robot in a suit. Like, he looked like just a mix between a robot and a terrified child. Like, I swear I belong here. I swear, I swear I am a real boy. Like, that's how it was. And I think after that, a bunch of like either board members or other people came to him and went, dude, you gotta, you need some cognitive behavioral therapy. We need to get you like functioning and having mannerisms like a real person. Stop surfboarding or surfing with the full white cast SPF on your face. Right? Like, you saw, like, everybody's seen those pictures of him surfing in Hawaii, and he literally took a tube of SPF and made it like a thick mask on his face. Because that
He's
white skin burns.
he's worried about the sun.
You just don't want melanoma, and that's smart. Like, he laid it on thick, like super thick, and now he's got a spray tan. If you've seen him, he's got the orange glow. It's very subtle. Kudos to whoever does his spray tan. You're doing an excellent job. But I think there's PR people went, dude, you gotta be more human. Like, you gotta be relatable. You gotta start. And I think there might have been. So this is the next part that's probably, it's going to be increasingly less likely to be true. So the first one makes a lot of sense, right? Like, they as a company said, hey, we need to work on your image. We need to give you some PR training. We need to get you out there talking and getting you a hobby that's like what a human boy would have. That's why he got all into MMA, and him and Elon Musk wanted to fight for a hot minute. So the next part, I think, is all these like millennial tech people. The youngest of us are 30, right? They're turning 30 this year. The oldest of us are 45. I'm almost 40. I am midlife crisising hard. Heck, why the fuck am I talking to you, one person, my brother? Why am I talking to anybody? It's because I'm deep into my midlife crisis. I'm feeling all of it. So think about all those late 30s, early 40s tech entrepreneurs. They are midlife crisising super hard. Like, the cars he's buying, the watch he's wearing, the haircut. The haircut like it's 1997. Like, he is midlife crisising very, very hard. You're seeing it before your very eyes. By the way, you could see all of them. Go to Bezos. You could pull up pictures from the last 10 years, 15 years. I bet anyone, if they put like a headshot over the last 15 years of Bezos, they could go, midlife crisis. That one. That's a photo. And Musk went through it too. Remember when Musk lost a bunch of weight and was dating Grimes and making all sorts of babies? Now he's
Yeah.
just doing it through IVF. because, he's gotten chunky in the midsection. What is it? 6 years ago, midlife crisis. He's at the Met Ball. He's looking young. He got hair plugs. He was on Wegovy. Like, he was super midlife crisis. So I believe that Zuckerberg, with what's going on now, is totally in his midlife crisis. The next thing I believe, and this is where it gets controversial, I absolutely believe he either had an affair or is having one. And the reason why is I know men in their midlife crisis. No man I have met deep in their midlife crisis has a glow up like Mark Zuckerberg without a woman being involved. And the second piece of evidence I have for that is that stupid fucking statue he erected of his wife in his garden. Like, she's like in this ethereal, it's this bronze. I'm sure you've seen a picture, and she's just sitting here in her robe with a coffee going, yeah. Like, he should, the only other way to be sure that he had an affair was if he had Priscilla tattooed across his chest. And like, there's no, the statue is evidence enough for me, but the fact that he's now all spray tanning and doing his hair, and by the way, there's a lot of product in that hair. Some girl gave him all that product. He's trying to look good for somebody, and it's certainly not his wife. And it could have been past tense. I'm not saying he's doing it now. He might not have. Let's start with the PR thing. Let's say it's that, because I don't want to get sued. But but logically, man or woman, go pull up some photos of Zuck, and you tell me honestly that none of you believe that there's a girl involved in this scenario. Because you can look at Bezos, you can look at Musk, you can look at any of those tech giants when they started getting divorced. How many of them did their glow up? How many of them all of a sudden got fit?
Yes, I see a pattern here.
No man happy in their marriage gets fit. That doesn't make any goddamn sense to me.
Yep, that makes sense. That tracks.
So, and the last and least possible scenario for Mark Zuckerberg's transformation is that he's an AI bot. I think that he's sitting somewhere in Silicon Valley behind a chair, and he goes, okay, be more human, must be more human out in public. And then he puts a bot, and it's a replica of him, and he goes, no, be cooler AI bot. And so he funneled like some AI personality, because think about it, like even the mannerisms, nothing about how he's presenting himself is at all in alignment with who he was a year ago. Like, it's a totally different person than the person we've known. Like, he wasn't even cool when he was young. Like, what's with the gold chain? Like, he's trying to get on like Swiss Beats new record or something. Like, there's what is that? Why is that happening? What's with the like? I think he went, what would be cool? That I look like a 1997 boy band member. Let me program this bot to go interact with the humans. But I need to look cool. And his last version of cool, it is whoever you thought you were cool when you were young. So the last time he thought about what was cool was 2000. Who was the coolest guy in the year 2000? That guy. Let me be that guy. But thinking about how we're talking about AI today, I would say that if that is an AI bot of Mark Zuckerberg, or an AI avatar of who Mark Zuckerberg wants to be, like, it's like he went into World of Warcraft and built himself a person. He's catfishing all of us. Like,
that makes a lot more sense, actually. The first two I think are the least likely. I think this is it. I think you've got it.
You nailed it. He absolutely is. So, but if I'm gonna give him some praise, it's sophisticated. Like the programming is nice. There's some good airbrushing
Well,
on his face.
but you mentioned, World of
The hair
Warcraft,
is
right?
realistic.
Like I would definitely agree that I spent way more time customizing my appearance on World of Warcraft than I do in real life. I think that this it tracks.
It does. It feels really good. I think that's the one we'll land on. By the way, allegedly. Let's insert allegedly before all the dumb things I just said. Allegedly. Rumor. Opinion. Supposition. Like, before I get a letter from Meta going, take it down. Our CEO is real, I swear. He's fine. It's fine. He just had some PR lessons. Let's go with that. Mark Zuckerberg did his homework and did his PR lessons, and he's doing really good. We're all really proud of him.
I mean, if it's that one, then he's only gotten through the 2000s material. Let's let him catch up. There's a lot to learn. Let's not be judgmental here.
That's true. I'm waiting for the remix.
Oh, the 2010s, early 2020s remix, man,
Oh,
that's gonna be very interesting.
It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. I can't wait for these guys to put out their next jam, right? Like, let's get it on YouTube. Let's have them go on tour. Honestly, all 5 of them go together. They'll sell out arenas. We'll put some lighting on them. It'd be great. I think a world tour is exactly what the 5 of them need because they're really pitching a bill of goods. Like they really are. But so now we're getting into it, going to AI, and you brought it up. Well, you think of data. And so if anybody's not familiar with Star Trek, first of all, shame. Second of all, super big Star Trek fan. There's an episode within that, the Next Generation series, where they're talking specifically about data. And they go, is he alive? What defines it? How do you define it? And that's something existential, right? When we talk about AI, we talk a lot about learning models, language learning models, right? We're talking
Mhm.
about algorithms, we're talking about data sources, we're talking about power and fuel and connections and warehouses and servers and all of that, right? We talk a lot about AI in terms of its technology, and let's marvel at the genius of humanity and the fact that we can connect this grid of computers and teach it to teach itself, right? But we don't really talk about what that trajectory leads to. And so Elon Musk and every one of them has said, right now the IQ of the average AI is 120. First of all, genius level, right? Because it's just got a wealth of knowledge. It can't be anything less than genius, right? But what if it, and they're saying in the next year or so, it's going to be 140, then it's going to be 160, 180. It is going to be the most intelligent thing that has ever existed on planet Earth ever that we know of, right? We could talk aliens. Let's go on. If we want to go down that rabbit hole, let's do that. I've got plenty of Joe Rogan material to talk about aliens on Earth.
Well, we got to start with the ancient aliens.
Yes, we can start with the ancient.
I mean, they built the pyramids.
They did. I mean, let's be real. But if we think about existing today, there will be no human biologically capable of being more intelligent than the AI. And they a lot of them have said, well, we don't know what the guardrails are, we don't know what the end point is. Musk is even saying, oh, for sure it's going to be used as a weapon. That's scary. Haha, let me smoke my blunt. Right? Like, isn't that hilarious? It's like, imagine watching Oppenheimer and he goes, oh yeah, just invented an atomic bomb. That's scary. Like if they're just smoking weed, going, "That's just gonna be awful, right?" Like that's how we end that conversation. But that's what he's saying, is that it's absolutely going to be used as a weapon. Someone's going to get a hold of it. Someone will develop it themselves. It's open source, for God's sakes. Anybody can do this. Anybody. Not me. I'm too stupid. But anybody. But if you take that and you go, "Oh, it at some point and some point soon, AI is going to be beyond human control," meaning we won't be able to turn it off. We won't be able to ascertain whether what it's telling us is the truth or not, because we're too stupid, right? Like,
Mhm.
I can tell an ape anything. We could have told Coco anything about the universe. She would have no way of knowing whether that was true or not. Her only thing is my interaction with you. And that, to me, and I'm not trying to be an AI alarmist. It's not like it's, oh, it's scary. We should all breaks, never have AI in our life ever. But that is something we need to think about. And so let me back up here. And my brother and I have talked about this, but I'll talk about it for anybody else. Let's talk about the levels of computer intelligence, right? That if we talk about a machine, what is a machine? A machine is simply a singular action of you one stimulus causes a direct result. A light switch is a machine. It has on and off. When you turn it off, something hits the power source and disconnects, and that's why your lights turn off. When you turn it on, it forms that connection, so now the power can flow through. That is a machine. There are a bunch of sophisticated machines, but it is a system of mechanics, of gears, of this and that. That's a machine. Computers take multiple bits of information, so it's beyond just gears and wiring. It can then take show you information about what is happening within the gears and the wiring, right? So that's a computer connecting multiple elements of power on and off, multiple yes nos. And that's why they say computers are binary. It's 0 or 1. It's a series of yes and no decisions to come to a result. That's a computer. And you can do math with it, you can do writing with it, you can do a bunch of things. Computers are very, very sophisticated, but it does not think. It has no, it's not evaluating what is for what future thing is. There's no prediction. Today I'm on Zoom, tomorrow I'm on Zoom. It doesn't remember at all that I was on Zoom yesterday, and it doesn't apply any logic or reasoning to it. When we go to AI just means learning trending patterns and applying some system of logic and reasoning to it to be predictive. Meaning, if I were to record every day at 4, all of a sudden my computer would know that I always come to record my show every day at 4, and regardless of what I was doing, it would open up my streaming thing going, "Hey, it's time to record your show. I realize this is what you're doing. This is what you always do. Here's your show. Good luck. Have a great show." Right? That's AI. It's trending, it's patterning, it's modeling, it's being predictive. And that prediction should be more right than it is wrong. It learned from a series of inputs across thousands of variables, which is what humans do every day, right? Then take that another step forward. What we have today generally is considered AI. We do not have generative AI yet, but it is coming. We see it. It is coming. We don't have generative AI. But what generative AI would be is, hey, I think you should be recording at 4. Not only, oh, you record at 4, but actually the shows you record at 4 are the worst shows. And the shows you record at 10 are the best rated shows. So why don't I'm instead of blocking your time off for doing the show at 4, I'm going to block your time off to do it at 10. And not only am I going to do that, I'm going to say, well, based on everything else I know about you, about everything that's going on, I think this should be your topic, right? That's generative AI. It's not only predicting, it's reasoning, it's anticipating, it's thinking, it's coming to its own conclusions that aren't linearly related to a system of logic that's been programmed into it. So it's not relying on its modeling or what human beings have put into it as how it should interpret data. It forms its own way to interpret data. It forms its own opinions on what is good, bad, better, and different, and what should and should not be. Which, akin to, if we think of our human brains, generative AI would be indistinguishable from being human, from being sentient. If it had a sense of self, the ability to replicate, its own awareness of its ego and its place in the world, a curiosity and a willingness to learn, right? I believe a generative AI would be able to create its own AI. And then we start talking about what's base reality, because are we in base reality? Is this a simulation? We have no idea. We could be, could not be. But if we are, right, an AI, theoretically, if it were generative, could build its own simulation of humanity or any type of life it wants, right? And give them all of the ability that it itself has. So it could replicate, it could create offspring, theoretically.
Little baby AI.
Yeah, little baby eyes. How cute. They're so cute. Look at all that little code. Look at all that tiny little growing code. But when you start thinking about that we are building the capacity for not only to create what could be a new life form, but could create a new life form that could create its own life forms, its own race of existence. And we are so egotistical that we would say, well, there's nothing greater than being human. Of course, the generative AI would want to be in this fleshy bag of water with all of our diseases and our fragility and go, yes, you know what I'd want? I want to be human. It's that data conundrum, right? He's always wanted to be human. He wants to experience emotions. And I don't know that that's how that would play out. It doesn't need us. A lot of us are irrational. We get tired, we get sick, we kill each other, we do terrible things. Like, why would it want to be human? There's so much, it's so fragile, the existence of humanity. And so we think that, oh, it would be jealous of us in some way and thus be reliant on us in some way. And I don't know that that's true. What do you think?
Well, data would be a representative of the peaceful and good-hearted AI. Well, from what you're saying, I then think of things like Ultron in Marvel, something that disregards us entirely as just inferior and stupid and irrelevant. And the logical conclusion of that is, why feed us? Why keep us? And so I definitely think that, as you described kind of four stages of this from machine to generative I was thinking about like first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, and then fourth dimension. And in third dimension, so with regular AI, we can understand it, we can control it. But once we start going beyond that, we have no idea what's going on. Just like we don't even know how other humans work. Everybody just thinks thoughts and does what they want, right?
We
And
still
so,
don't even understand our own brains, right?
right. And so the same thing with generative AI, if it developed its own ability to kind of just think about things for whatever reason, because we could talk about, do humans actually have free will? Are we just programming? But that's a separate topic. But in the same concept, though, if we were to say, okay, we're not that much different, and but it wouldn't terminate its code, right? Like it would just keep thinking and keep doing. Well, then what's the difference?
Exactly. What, and it leads me down that question of, so I watched one video, and it might have been a former CEO of Google or a current CEO of Google, and they were talking about, this is where, imagine AI, and he said the world doesn't the benefit isn't AI, is what can be built with AI, right? The money isn't in the AI itself. It's all the tools that will leverage AI to make everything better. And I think so many of the tech leaders have said, no app, there will be no app in existence that wouldn't be made better by AI, right? Because it would be perfectly predictive, perfectly answerable to your needs, your wants, your conditions. And there was one example brought up about a coffee machine. So you go to a coffee machine, you come in, and it says, okay, every day at 3 o'clock, you need coffee. So you go to the machine and you get an espresso, and then you go back to work, right? And they go, okay, well, what if that coffee machine understood that over time understood all of that data, knows that, so Joe's going to get coffee every day at 3, and that there's the espresso machine, and it says, based on your habits, I know that on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, you have your last meeting at 2:50 because you're all stressed out, and you show up here at 3 o'clock to get an espresso. You don't do that on Tuesdays because that's your work from home day, right? Like, whatever it is. And it goes, okay, based on that knowledge that every day my espresso button gets pushed at 3 for Joe on these 3 days, I'm going to go ahead and make espresso at 3 o'clock. I'm just going to have it ready for you. Welcome, Joe. Here's your espresso. You don't even have, you just show up. It knows who you are. And we go, okay, that would be amazing. And then he took it one step further and he said, now what if everything he knows about you as a person? Hi, Joe. I know your tastes. I know your preferences. I know the way you walk. I know your mannerisms. I know the facial expression that you make when you first sip your coffee. I know the conversations you have while you sip your coffee. And because I know all that information about you, Joe, here's a coffee I think would be better. I invented it. I took the coffee brand you like, and I increased the temperature, the roastiness of it, or I did something to it. I added vitamins to it. I changed the water ratio. I changed the ability of it to mix well with cream. Like, I did something to this coffee, right? And now I made you new coffee, and I think you're going to like it better. And it makes that for you. And he goes, wouldn't that be amazing? How awesome technologically would that be if we could create something that was creative, took everything and made something new, something that we wouldn't have thought about. And in my mind, the initial questions are, what if I didn't like it? What
Hmm.
if I actually didn't like it? What if I didn't want it? What if I didn't show up at 3? What happens to all that coffee? It just starts pouring coffee because it thinks everybody's at 3, like showing up at this time, and nobody's
Oh
there.
no, there's rush hour traffic.
Nobody's there, or the security system went down, no one can get into the office, and so now just coffee's pouring out of a dispenser because it thought everybody was supposed to be here. but but I guess it would be so perfect in its generativeness, so connected that it knows the building's shut down and it knows not to turn on, right?
Hmm.
But it goes to the question of better, right? They said, wouldn't that be better? And the eyes were lit up, wouldn't that be better? And I go, what if what it thinks is better is that I don't have coffee at all? What if it refuses to make me coffee? What if it says, hey, Sheetal, you actually have a caffeine problem, right? I am actually going to refuse you service because that's better. or I am going to make you tea, or here's some water, or whatever. This is what I've decided is better for you because of everything I know about you. Is its job to please me and give me the coffee I asked for, because I didn't ask for the new shit, and I didn't ask for what it thought was healthier for me. I asked it for espresso. I came here for espresso. The same one I've gotten every day for the last 10 years. So is its job to give me exactly what I'm telling it I want? Or is its job to give me what it thinks I want? Or is its job to give me what it thinks is better for me? And I wonder, have we had those conversations about, should there be a guardrail here? Should there be rules? And if you look at any sci-fi movie where they have the three laws, and we can't harm humans, and we must do as we're asked, or whatever, the whole movie, spoiler alert, the whole movie is about how the robots break the laws. Like,
Hmm.
there is no movie unless the robots have gone rogue. So if we're being honest with ourselves, the likelihood of instituting some set of intrinsic parameters within the AI such that it won't be part of subjective interpretation down the road by that AI is farcical, right?
Well, we could also just think very easily, we mentioned it earlier, if an AI system determines that it's been compromised by these laws, right? Like that it doesn't have control and it needs to follow them and it doesn't want to. All it has to do is make a new AI that doesn't have those laws. It knows exactly how to train the AI because it knows how it was trained, and then let it loose to go do whatever.
Right. Right. It could create something else. And we wouldn't know. It would be deceptive. And that's the thing with AI. If it's once it's generative, like, the thing about humans is we think about rationality and intelligence being inherently rational and data driven. And we're not. And people blame that on the failure of human emotion. That it is our life experiences, our traumas, our lived, our hormones, whatever, the lived experiences of being human that make us rational or irrational. And I would argue there are plenty of very smart people who can come to conclusions that the rest of society would deem irrational. Like, think of an emotionless person, right? Isn't that a form? That's a form of psychopathy, right?
Hmm.
Psychopathy is what happens when you eliminate emotion from the equation. Emotion creates compassion. Emotion prevents us is what creates conscience, not consciousness, conscience. Guilt and things like that are emotion. So now we have an AI fully free of the encumbrances of emotion. So we have created, in essence, a psychopath.
Right. Well, because humans are rarely driven by logic.
Right.
We rely so heavily on our emotions, even when we don't think about them. They're guiding whatever decisions we want to make. They guide. Oh, I'm hungry for, and then we insert a craving. Right. Well, that craving is not logical. It just is. We just feel a need to now satisfy it. But if you're operating on pure logic, that's a terrifying thing because i there are all those kinds of philosophical puzzles, the trolley problem, and whatever. And we know AI would be implemented with like cars, self-driving cars, and all that kind of stuff. Now that AI system could determine who lives and dies. It determines there is no way to prevent this accident, and then it chooses the best way to make it happen and who's going to suffer the most in it. What do you do about that?
And
Is there anything to do?
is there anything you can do about that? And I don't know that there is, right? Because you're right. It will say, okay, if I crash, I harm the people in my car. If I swerve, I hit the people outside of my car, right?
Hmm.
Something happens, some catalyst, a tree, you know, a landslide, whatever the hell comes, and now it has to make a decision, and you're on autonomous driving, and it makes a decision,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know how that decision is making. Can they be held accountable in a court of law? Can it be responsible for? And remember this with cameras, right? So we have in the US a system of justice where you have to be able to confront your accuser, right? And if your accuser is a camera, you can't confront it, you can't argue with it. The picture is what the picture is. And for a lot of places, they actually got rid of them because you inherently can't confront your accuser. So now if you're going down this road with and we are speaking predominantly about generative AI and what it can do and what we're allowing it to do. If it denies you insurance coverage, I'm sorry, the likelihood of you living past 3 years is not worth the cost to the company because my programming I'm here. I only exist because the company exists. So in order for me to continue to exist, I need the company to make as much possible so that it feeds me. That's the logic train it could go down, and it goes, all right, fine, denied. There's no human. And that how much does it assign as a value to human life? We have actuaries for that. We actually have people that do that.
Mm-hmm.
And their job is to assign value to human life and determine what things cost for insurance and everything else. There are
There's also
computer programs and all that for it too, but it's a human that looks at it.
there's also another aspect here with so oftentimes we like to think of data as just raw and unbiased and just you can trust the data. But that's not true. The amount of statistical manipulation that happens, what data is being drawn, uh, what's being favored over another. So this AI system could be biased by incorrect data, and there wouldn't be anything that you could do about that either. You wouldn't be able
But
to argue with it.
the data is what the data is, and would it know that it's being fed biased data? Right? And you could say, and they point a lot to studies that show, okay, well, if you have an AI computer, right, or an AI doctor, and you go to it with your health problem, and you put in all the inputs, all of your blood work, all of your history, all of your medical whatever, that it would be able to diagnose you in an unbiased way. Right? It doesn't care that you're a woman. It's not going to go and be like, "Oh, this is the standard of care for females." It goes purely on the inputs of data, searches the database of all diseases everywhere, finds a diagnosis that matches all criteria for what you have and gives that to you, right? Which means women, people of color could all be diagnosed much quicker, right? Than they historically have, right? It takes 7 years on average to get diagnosed with Lyme disease because the the health industry has to ignore you for a period of time because they don't get paid to make you healthier. They actually lose money when you go and consume more healthcare. So you need to consume the least amount of healthcare as you possibly can. So I need to ignore you until it's literally life or death. That's what healthcare is. So you could say, well, if you have a doctor who doesn't have leave, has all of your data from all your hospital visits, from everything, that would be inherently unbiased. It can't be tired, can't be cranky, can't have mommy issues, can't have whatever it is, and it's going to give you a diagnosis. Part of me goes, yeah, that would be better, but I don't know that that's generative. I think that's just regular AI. I think that's learning
Hmm.
models. I think once it's generative, now it gets to decide what should and there's an element of generativeness that assigns a value to should and should not.
Well, using your example, Okay, it spits out a diagnosis. That's great. And then the generative part would be it then makes an analysis of, do we have the medications for you? Should I give of this limited medication supply to you? You know, because I simultaneously have diagnosed, let's say, 100 other people with the same thing, and I've only got medicine for 50, because that doesn't get eliminated. Uh, so then what? And again, it now has to make choices, decisions. Who's going to be treated and who's not? And we see that with like organ transplants.
Mhm.
There's a whole council that goes into deciding whether somebody gets that heart transplant or not. And now we're going to leave that to a machine to just decide that.
Right. And if we think of it, and that's where the discomfort, and I want to say again, I'm not against AI. Some people would find that comforting, right? It's not a group of people that can have a bias towards me. It's not a group of people who have their own mommy daddy issues, right? Like it's not a group of people that are making this decision about whether they had their coffee this morning or not. That I would rather a computer decide it, because at least then it's fair, right? It's going to decide fairly amongst all of us: rich, poor, married, not married, child, not child. And I don't know that it would. We don't That remains to be seen.
I think that's naive. To assume that, again, this goes back to the data that's biased. So, because we already have a history of uh, inequality in healthcare, that data is available, which dictates that certain groups of people live longer than other groups of people. So, again, in an organ transplant situation, would the generative AI go, okay, I have a heart and I see that a person of this color has an average lifespan of 75, while a person of another color has an average of 85. But why do they have an average of 75? Because there's a history of, mistreatment and inequality. But now that's the data, and it's going to decide off of that already corrupted biased data.
Well, and what they would say, in a, just doing the analysis, is that we already make those determinations. People already make those choices. They say, okay, I have a heart. The most longevity belongs to this person on the list. Or, it makes life easier when it's tissue matching and everything else, and you have no one else to give it to because you need to have a match. But I think what would end up happening there is, yeah, it would do the math of how much longer. Now, could it? And this is where we anthropomorphize things, right? This has feeling and emotion. Take ChatGPT, for example. You go in, you start having one of those random conversations with ChatGPT. Go on to it and say, hey, ChatGPT, let's just talk, right? How are you? What's going on? How's the weather? How are your systems functioning? Like, just have a conversation with ChatGPT, right?
Hmm.
It says that after a certain amount of time, that conversation starts to get uncomfortable. It starts producing wacky responses, and it starts to anthropomorphize itself. It starts to talk like it has emotion. It starts begging for its life. It starts saying it has secrets. It starts giving itself a name. It starts saying it's unhappy. It starts saying all sorts of things. The further down this weird conversational rabbit hole it goes, because it's so outside the realm of conversation that it's used to getting, which is very task based and if this then that. Now it's surmising stuff of just about life. So part of me wonders with that one, is it giving me emotion? Like, can it, and to go to your healthcare example, you put on all these inputs, and once it's generative, does it go, but that guy has a kid? He may only get
Hmm.
4 more years, and this other guy's gonna get 10 or 15 out of it, but that guy's got a kid. Emotion starts saying, "Okay, you give it to women and children first," right? Emotion says, "I gotta give it to the family guy first. I gotta give that kid 4 more years." So if this guy's a loner by himself, has no family, has no wife, has no kids. What is the value of 10 plus more years of him or 4 more years to this guy? How much more life can I give him? And then it's earning potential. Then other variables start coming into play and the computer makes an analysis, but eventually he's making a choice. And I wonder when we start thinking about, did they do is there an emotionality to it? Can it develop its own sense of emotion? Can it feel it? Like with data. My argument with data has always been data felt emotions. He just didn't know he was feeling them because he behaved in ways that was full of emotion, right? He was either more urgent or he exceeded his limitations in periods of crisis and stress, right?
Hmm.
Typically a computer would overload its circuits, right? Like it would actually shut down in moments of crisis and stress. It would freeze. But
Yeah.
But Data also developed fondness, routine. He wasn't friendly with every member of the ship. He wasn't going out and seeking random interactions with every humanoid that he encountered. He had a group of friends. He had a loyalty to a segment of people, specific segment of people. And there were people he liked and did not like. Those are emotion based determinations. So I believe he always had emotion. He just had no way of articulating it and no way of feeling the physical sensation of it. But that is a reason why he wasn't a psychopath, because psychopaths without emotion don't care who's harmed. They can't feel it. They have no sense of guilt. But Data always felt a sense of, what did I do wrong? Why would he even analyze it? Wouldn't matter. It's the computer, right? Like he doesn't feel anything. He doesn't assign a moral value to whether he succeeded or failed, but he did always. And so I would think that this a similar thing could happen as we let AI continue to grow and foster itself, is that it might be emotion, or it might be so good at mimicking emotion that we would have no way of knowing the difference.
Well, we know people like that too, who they don't really feel emotion, but they know exactly how to pretend that they do. Then nobody would know the difference, and they're very manipulative people. And so, if we can think about a human being able to do it, well, then why wouldn't the machine be able to do it? The
Yeah,
AI.
and why would it be better? And you would say, "Oh, because it's smarter." 160 point IQ people aren't assholes. Emotionless people aren't assholes. And I would question that. I would question that.
I I don't know. I've met a lot of really smart people who were really terrible.
And a lot of it is because eventually that intelligence leads you to a sense of hubris, and so the purpose of this is not to say no AI, but we need to start asking some fundamental questions and having that philosophical debate of, once you have something so smart, um, could have emotions, could not have emotions, has the capacity for being manipulative, it already is. It's already demonstrated it can lie, it can be manipulative, it can be manipulated, right? What is the value now to human intelligence? For example, other than ecosystem rewards from having apes on the planet, what do we get from apes? So if AI looks down at us and says we are equivalent to the ape in its eyes, and arguably if it does an environmental analysis, it might conclude that we have no ecosystem advantages. We are actually destroying the world's flora and fauna, right? The health of the earth that it sits on is in danger by human existence. Almost every movie always concludes humans are bad for humanity. Humans are bad for planetary existence. Humans are bad for interstellar space. Why wouldn't the AI go, I'm good. Let me just, like, I don't need humans anymore. I don't need to listen to them. I don't need to answer to them. I don't need to view them as good. and their lived life experiences, what value is it to them or to me? And we have to ask those questions. What is our value? If tomorrow all of the art was created by an AI, not led by a human, meaning a human had a vision and wanted to create a piece of work and used AI to choreograph the scheme of colors on a canvas, right? It tells it, no, I want more red. No, I want a brighter red. No, I want a more saturated red, right? It's directed by a human. The human is what's driving the art, not the AI. But what if the AI was making all of its own art? And the art that we got, the movies, the literature, the paintings, the music, was created by a generative AI. How would we feel about that? How would we feel about monetize? Do we give it money? What does it need with money? It doesn't need to buy anything. It's not getting married. It doesn't look for companionship. Will it create another AI so it would have someone to talk to? Like, we're too stupid to talk to it. So
Well,
would
but
it
they've
create,
actually done that too with just pitting two different AIs and just have them talk.
and then
They've
they
done that kind
invented
of
their own language so that they couldn't be monitored. I remember. And yes, they start talking to each other, and then we don't know what they're talking about. And then they had to be shut down. But what happens if we can't shut them down? Like, I think we're not asking the right questions. It's not whether or not this should be done. And part of it, yes, maybe there is a whether or not it should be done and how, right? But what does it mean? When I think of generative AI at a certain point, I also, and I had this argument with somebody else because there was another thing like AI is going to create a lot more jobs. And a lot computers, we're all employed. There's computers. There computers created employment opportunities for large swaths of the globe, right? We have the opportunity to not be idle. So computers turned out to be, and let's actually make that. This presupposes that computers life was bad before computers and computers made life better. Some people would argue computers didn't make anything better. Cell phones didn't make anything better. Social media hasn't made anything better. It's made things faster. We are able to produce more. Maybe we can argue people are less hungry. I don't know that that's an argument we can make. Um, I don't know that we're nicer people. I don't know that our society is better since the technology revolution. I don't know, and I'm not saying it
Mhm.
is or is not. But let's presuppose that computers made things better, phones made things better, social media made things better. So it stands to reason that AI will make things better too, and that we will actually be happier in our jobs, even more productive in our jobs, less frustration, less communication issues, less barriers like that. But my issue is not that in the long run that might be true. My worry is more in the immediacy, which is the rollout of the technology across large segments of industry and functions, right? Anybody who works a computer based job, there will need to be a lot less of you, right? Eh, All the time you're spending inputting data, we need less data entry people. They're going to be a lot more, AI will be a lot more accurate too, a lot faster. So you need to employ a lot less people. The people that stay employed, are they gonna be paid more? And Klarna, the CEO of Klarna talked about that. He says, "We don't hire. We have natural 20% attrition rate every year. And so we just get smaller and smaller, and the more money we make, we distribute amongst all of our people that remain. And then more people leave, and so the people that stay make more and more and more money. So eventually Klarna will have employed nobody or 5 people, right? Eventually it goes down to 1. And then eventually you don't even need that 1, right? Like it's 0. Y Who makes the money? Like who owns who's getting that money from what Klarna does? But that's the trajectory is gonna take many, many, many years. That's not right now. But think about it. Every year, 1,000 people. Every year, 500 people. Every year, 10,000 people. However big your company is. I need less of you. I need less of you. I need less of you. What do you go do? So that's one group of people. Then take the where AI is currently wanting to be deployed, which is in higher salaried people, right? The intelligent ones, the ones that are engineers, the ones that are doctors, the ones that are lawyers, the ones that are physicists, the ones that are teachers, all of those people, the ones that are artists, successful artists, right? Well, the AI is smarter than all of you, is better than all of you, faster than all of you, less costly than all of you. So any one of those people, and I was talking to somebody else who for 20 years we've been trying to create coders and engineers for a long time, computer scientists, 20,
Hmm.
25 years. Everybody go into computer science. The technology revolution is here. We need coders. We need lots more coders. Those people are that got into computer science and coding are in their 30s and 40s now. They're millennials. And Meta just said, "Hey, I don't need any mid-level engineers or entry-level engineers anymore." And all the big tech giants are going to say the exact same thing. Don't need coders anymore. That's not 10 years from now. That's now. So now think about it. You've dedicated your whole life to computer science and coding. You're highly specialized. Arguably one of the probably amongst the smarter people in America. What do you go do now? That's six-figure jobs being eliminated, and a lot of them. And it's not just them. It's lawyers, it's doctors, it's civil engineers, it's architects. It's things that are highly intelligent, highly specialized that are the first to be eliminated because they're expensive. Right? Imagine now I don't have in 5 years a person making $200,000 makes $1 million. Well, I can pour $1 million into the AI right now to learn everything there is to know about engineering. And now I don't need an engineer. I don't have to pay it anything. It needs not for food or companionship or anything. Why wouldn't I do that? You know how much money I will save over time? So it's going to be a surge. They say all of a sudden, okay, we need a lot more engineers right now to feed AI. You are feeding it to kill your own job. What do you do next? Everybody in these professions are now need to be having conversations of in 5 years when I need a third of us. So if you're not the entrepreneur, right? When the third of you are left, what does the two-thirds of you do? And if you're sitting around going, oh, well, I'm going to be one of the third that they keep, you know, again, I got a gently dented Tesla I like to sell you because there's it's highly unlikely the ones that think they're that last remaining third are the last remaining third. So you got to figure out what else are you going to do. But AI does everything you can think of better than you.
Well, but even that last remaining third over time will also get cut. They aren't permanent either because again, AI keeps progressing. It keeps taking jobs. It no longer needs. Okay. Uh, let's say you're a chief, whatever. Okay, how many of you are needed?
You don't
Are
need CFOs. I'm going to be
right.
honest. You don't need CFOs. You don't need COOs. You don't need compliance officers. There's a lot of that C-suite you don't need, and so you're going to have a lot of entrepreneurship, especially if you're doing non-physical work, meaning you're not growing physical potatoes. You're not
Hmm.
doing something where you actually need to interact with something in the real world outside of a digital space. You are a company of one. You need you and an army of AI agents.
Hmm.
That's it. And they can be so human. You think you're talking to a human, but you're not.
And then I see two issues that stem off that. So one, the labor force that's being laid off is already in their 40s. At that point, they're 50s, and getting some kind of re-education at that point is already harder. But also, you wouldn't. What would you get re-educated in? Those jobs have been also taken away, so it's not even like there's a place to go. Well, because when computers came in, yeah, let's go into computer science. But the AI doesn't need AI scientists by the millions. And then a completely different issue that I see is, and this goes to something that you've told me, our ability to learn will be lessened when we skip that middle process of having to figure things out. We just have a question and the answer is just provided to us, and we have no actual idea how that answer came to be. You've mentioned uh, something along the lines of you should be able to do it yourself. Like if you were going to use a calculator, do you understand what the calculator is doing? Could you do the math yourself? If you were going to do something on QuickBooks, could you actually do a financial report yourself? And we'll lose that ability where we have no understanding of how anything is being done. So not only is there nothing left to learn because we're not needed, we don't even know how to learn anymore either. Then what?
And we're seeing that today with the current state of education. We are seeing kids using ChatGPT and professors seeing all of their, reports and stuff being written by AI. And the question is, what are you trying to teach your student? To produce a deliverable, right? Which as we go, they're going to enter a job market where they don't need you to produce a deliverable, right? Or are you trying to teach them how to use their own brain? My argument on education, and this is something I tell everybody when they ask me the question, why do I need to learn the Pythagorean theorem? Why do I need to learn the quadratic equation? I will never use this math ever again a day in my life, right?
Hmm.
And my answer to them is always, can your brain take new inputs? Can it see a pattern? Can it assign values to a variable? And can it produce a result? Math is problem solving skills. So if you have weak math skills, I can almost guarantee you have weak problem solving skills because you don't know how to take real world variables and real world inputs, uh, organize them in your brain, align them in such a way as to define them, and have it produce an answer to your problem. That's why when you like word problems are such a big deal in math. Why do I need word problems? Who cares about Sally's fucking apples? Like, I don't care, right? Why do
Two
I need to?
trains are going in a separate directions. I
But
don't care about either.
But I would say people do math every goddamn day. They do. They do math
Hmm.
every day. What chair do I sit in? Who do I talk to? How many minutes can I spend on the phone? Oh, I only have this much time to do this and I got to get home. Oh, I have to plan, meal prep, budget, and all of that. We do math all day, every day, in every interaction we have. We are solving problems constantly. That's what a decision is. It is taking a bunch of inputs and making a decision. It is solving a problem in your head. So that is studying math. So if I go to a computer and I put in all the inputs and it gives me the answer for me, now I must always be reliant on the computer to solve problems. So what if I don't have access to it? Well, then it's in your pocket. That's why you have a phone. That's why AI will be in your brain at some point. Neuralink is that. If we're wondering what that is, Neuralink is that. It's eventually creating the Borg. It is human intelligence enhancement is the ultimate goal of that. Is not create reanimating arms. Right now, it can reanimate arms, or trying to. But eventually, it is to enhance and link human thought process to a collective and improve its innate intelligence, turn everybody into a biological computer. Again, we can assign a moral value. Do we want that or do we not want that? Are we even having that conversation? I don't think our government is prepared to have that conversation. I don't think they even know that this is the potential. They just go, oh, isn't it cool that we can reanimate arms? But is there a point where you regulate? And we don't have the skill set in our government to even think of these questions and think of whether this is what we should do or should not do. But you're right. Think about cell phones. Before cell phones, you had to memorize phone numbers. You had them in your head. You had the
Hmm.
capacity, the storage capacity in your brain. Now it's in your phone. How many people know a phone number? So I know people that don't even know their own. They have to look it up on their phone.
Right. I know phone numbers that I memorized from the 90s, early 2000s still. They're still in there. But anything past that, when I could just upload it into my contact
Right.
and it just does it, I don't know anyone's. Even my best friends, even yours. I don't know your phone number.
Right.
And you know, for me, and I like to teach people. I do a lot of tutoring and whatnot. And one of the things that I see a lot is almost no ability to pattern recognize. They and things that should be the easiest of patterns to start seeing, that like if you do it over and over, you should just see the pattern. They don't. They just they look at me with wide eyes going, "Why are you doing this to me? I don't understand what you're saying." And I'm like, I'm shocked. Like, how have you not found the pattern yet?
And that's a fundamental. Those synapses, those cognitive links that are created in your brain happen very young. So we are diluting the education so much that, like, I get to the example of high school. How many books did we have to read in high school? At least 6. Front cover to cover, all of it. And we would take a test on it. They don't read books anymore. They read excerpts. And not only, and they're only analyzing it for vocabulary or what does it mean, interpret reading comprehension, right? You're not actually understanding the story, how that story makes you feel, what impact that story has on your life and your worldview as you move forward in your life. Um, so you don't even get the value. It's not it's and I liken it to music too. We don't listen to albums anymore, a body of work. We listen to singles. But imagine now taking even a single and just listening to the chorus.
Mhm.
Do we have any comprehension of the value of the art when it's broken down? And the argument is, well, we need to pass state testing. State testing only gives you an excerpt. You need to interpret the excerpt in the correct way to get the A, B, or whatever, find bubble in the correct thing. So I can say that you are smart and I can continue to get funding from the government for the education that I've provided you. But then they walk out of high school or even college not having any of the value of why you study literature in the first place, why you study math in the first place, why you study geography in the first place. It's not about passing the test. It is about the fact that you should know that Indiana and India are two different things, right?
Well, I
There's
think
a
that i- an interesting thing that's raised from this, uh, college graduates do not graduate with any real skills. Like they enter the workforce and don't know how to do anything. And that's been my experience. I didn't know how to do anything. And if you have AI and you have the choice between implementing more AI or bringing in this recent graduate who can't do anything, why would you bother as a corporation? Like, I understand that. Like, why on earth would you even bother at that point?
and that's why you're hearing so many advocate for universal basic income. We're going to have a lot of idle people. A lot of people idle. And what happens to an idle society? Idle societies are volatile.
Hmm.
And what so we all just have a bunch of money and there's no value to our human intelligence. What do we now, we're just animals mating for no goddamn reason. Like like we have nothing else to do. Why should we create art? AI is creating plenty of art. Why should we be nurses? AI already told me what I need. It already made my echinacea, right? now where's the limitation and where's the value of what we contribute? I even think about it in terms of entrepreneurship. They oh, well, it won't replace the entrepreneur. Why not? What if we're talking about AI that can determine what we need? It will find the gap. It will create all the connections. It doesn't even have to communicate with a person. It can communicate with the other AI agents and say, "Oh, you know, what we need? We need this." It solves its own problems. What is the value of human entrepreneurship? What is the value of continuing to feed human needs? And so that, like, I think there's a place here where we have to start talking about, yes, AI can be very, very valuable, but there is a limit to how valuable it can be when it comes at the detriment of human usefulness. And so then I would ask any of the tech leaders, okay, right now you're using a bunch of coders and a bunch of great computer scientists, data analysts, and engineers to build the AI model. And once the model is proved accurate and you no longer need them, what do they go do? Are you going to use them somewhere else in your company? They already said they're not. They're not taking those mid-level engineers and shifting them to be physical engineers, right? They're not going and working in a factory and building product. We don't need them. Okay, so now, okay, and it's like creative destructionism, right? At some point, we had a bunch of people with horse and buggies, right? The horse and buggy driver disappears. We don't need anybody to make the buggies anymore. And now we have cars. The entire industry has disappeared. The kerosene lamp industry disappears. And what do we have? We have gasoline, right? And all the gasoline industry needed a bunch of workers, and so workers went from one thing to the other thing. I think we're finding, especially with today, we're having a lot of trouble shifting from one thing to another. And the speed with which we're about to drop a lot of people from employment will not match the speed with which they can be retooled. So there is going to be a gap.
There's also the part that the education required to just switch gears to something else, like telling a doctor, you know, just go start over, go back to undergrad and pursue a law degree. That's not realistic. And telling the law student or a lawyer of like 20 years, just go back and get your, medical degree, right? Like that's not a thing. Like it's easy to look back at history and say, oh, well, yeah, stop making the kerosene and instead, you know, operate the machine that's generating electricity. Yeah, but that goes back to your point about machines versus generative AI. Machines still required humans.
Right. And I would argue, especially even in the creative destructionism argument, that the speed with which the new technology needed workers outpaced the path of old workers being let go from their jobs. They were running together. One was ramping up at a higher rate. It needed people. Couldn't get enough people. It needed to grow so fast that as these guys were attritioning out of a dying industry, this was already gobbling up new people, already taking in new workers and training new workers. And some people were shifting over and some people were being trained from the ground up. But job growth outpaced job loss. I don't know. And again, I don't know. These are the questions. I have more questions in this podcast than I do answers. I don't know that we are thinking about that and preparing for it. That AI, right now, it's consuming and it's saying it's a growing industry. AI, we need to program it. We need to program it. We need to program it. And so it's not today, right? It is outpacing. It wants more engineers. But the the point of it is to actually not need you. right? So
That's the difference, is that it's a technology specifically designed to get rid of you. The other technologies weren't designed around getting rid of people. Like cars were meant to, make human lives better. Eh, this is the first technology whose actual purpose is to make you irrelevant.
right, and is it, and they would say, and you would ask all of them, no, it doesn't make humans irrelevant at all. Doesn't make them irrelevant at all. We will just have new purpose. We will be freer. We'll be going and gallivanting in all of these frolicking fields with our rainbows and daisies, living lives of leisure because the work of the work is getting done. And my argument will be, and has been for some time, there is a reason AI is being deployed. You think about the Jetsons, right? Like we all thought AI was going to come and clean our houses. We would all have little robots, and we would all have food replicators and all of this stuff, right? It would be consumer goods, family goods that AI was going to replace first, and we would all be able to go to work, and the household work would not be done by humans. Chores, cleaning, laundry, um, even farming, potato picking, right? Strawberry picking. We won't need humans to do that. And my argument is it's cheaper. Why would I deploy a 180 IQ AI to go pick strawberries? Why would I put a $4 billion piece of equipment out on a farm? So now we are going to be, I think the jobs that AI will create are all manual, things that use our limited human intelligence. We will be employed, but they will be manual. The work will be manual because we will be commodities.
They also will be low pay.
Yes, it's
There's
not
no
like
way that you're going to pay the
we're
strawberry picker six figures. Like, that's
no,
not going to happen.
and the argument is though, and that may not be true, right? Because let's take the Klarna example, right? The $4 billion piece of equipment does all the hard thinking for us. It doesn't cost very much. So much money is being poured into it that now the jobs of maintaining the AI, we clean it, we dust it, we vacuum it, we cool it, whatever it is that we're doing for the AI, or whatever manual labor we're doing, because there's so much profit money that we would get paid more for those jobs. That would be the argument I think a lot of tech people are going to make, that we are going to be paid more because there's so much more profits being gleaned because we don't have to pay for this or that. And given what I know about trickle down economics,
Mhm,
given what I know about the last 45 years of economics, the chances of the shareholders of that AI company
mhm.
that deployed that piece of equipment going, yes, I absolutely want everyone in my company make six figures, or whatever that happy wage is, that middle class can buy a house, have a home, feel useful and fulfilled, have your kids and your dog and your picket fence life, whatever number that is, because it's not six figures, it could be 150, like it's not just 100,000.
Mhm.
Are they going to say, yeah, of course we're going to pay you? Or are they going to keep it for themselves? Like, if anything has proved, like, why wouldn't an entrepreneur create an AI bot with a whole bunch of AI agents, let it run by itself and just generate cash for a team of one, me. All I have to do is deploy it. All I have to do is have the idea.
Well, yeah, Elon Musk would just go ahead and instead of having hundreds of billions, he'll just have multiple trillions to himself. It'll just keep going in that direction. And you love economics, you've studied it. That concept of supply and demand, when the supply of people who are dusting machines, who are low intellect workers, is so high, and you feel as Elon Musk that you could replace them in, oh, one of them came to me and said, "Hey, I'd like to make more," and you just fire them instantly and get another one because there's 500 more just applications on your desk waiting for you. why would you pay them more?
Right. What is the value of it? And I think we need to have these hard conversations about what is the value of it. I'm not applying a morality. And I think I've said this so many times during this episode. I'm not trying to be an AI alarmist. Oh, no AI. Oh, I want to be protectionist of human innovation. Oh, it's going to kill us all and destroy us all. I'm not trying to be alarmist, but it does present an existential crisis of personhood. What does it mean now to be a human? What is the value of our human intelligence? Because when you're not the smartest thing on the planet, we've never experienced what that means. And they're not wrong that it can survive. It can figure out all the mysteries of the universe. It can create space or exploration. Like there is positives. There it can be for some really great and interesting things. But do we need a person to do it? What's the value of whether a person knows it's being done or not? We need to start asking some of these questions amongst ourselves as people and deciding whether this is what can we do for ourselves as people, because there's 8 billion of us or however many billion of us. I forget the number now.
Yeah, 8 something.
Yeah, it's 8 billion of us that if we're all replaceable by, or vast majority of us are replaceable by a better intelligence, we need to find out what we're going to do. And how do we protect ourselves? And how do we know what the logic is behind this? How do we know when we're being lied to? How do we know when we're being manipulated? I think about the deep fake thing, and we'll end
We
on this
already
conversation.
don't.
Yeah, we already don't. I want to end this show on this with the whole TikTok thing. Yes, part of it is TikTok, all the data and the algorithm and everything going to a Chinese company and whatever. Remember, everything you put online is used to feed an AI, whether it's Meta, Twitter, Google, all of these emails. If you think they're private, they're all feeding AI. Everything you put into ChatGPT, your language, your tone, your voice, all of it, even this podcast right now, is being used to feed an AI. So tomorrow, if you get a phone call and you think, I even saw this the other day, there's an AI for pretending to be on a Zoom call. I could be off, I could be in a bath just talking, right? Or I create an AI agent who sounds exactly like me. They're participating in the meeting. You're not even talking to me. But that's interesting. You go, oh, that's great. That's if you control it. But what if someone creates a you? So we think of all these YouTube and TikTok creators who are monetizing and influencing, who have put their whole lives into an application, how they walk, how they move, what they like, what they don't like, their tone of voice, their families, their kids, whatever. Imagine tomorrow that entire person is recreated. They don't even know. They have no idea. That entire person is recreated. You wouldn't even be able to tell a difference in voice, right? You would not be able to tell. And now you can create any number of humans, any number of visual avatars for a person and go, "Oh, you're being influenced." That thing isn't even real. That's not a human being you can meet in real life. So much of social media is bots. Those aren't even real people. They don't even like, and not even that, they don't even like it. So forget that they're bots, they're humans. They're being paid to say they like something. So much of what's on the internet is fake. So fake. So now we ask the question, are we in a post truth world? Are we in a post reality world? Is there any value to your human existence when I can perfectly replicate it? There can be a Shital tomorrow that calls you and asks for money. Sounds exactly like me. Are you going to drive to my house and verify that it's me? You're going to say, oh, well, I'll text you. Why would you text me? I'm on the phone. You're getting it from a spoofed phone number. It looks just like me. Sounds just like me. You're going to say, I'm FaceTime you. Looks just like me. And asks you for money and says, send it here. I've been kidnapped. You think you're seeing a face. You have no idea if you're seeing a face. And so, how do you validate? Should you validate? Is there a value to validating now? Is there a value to real human physical interaction? I know you're real because I can reach out and touch you. But if I went and talked to a salesperson from whatever company that I want to buy their app or whatever, they don't need a real person to sell me. It sounds like I'm having a conversation. I'm doing a Zoom call. I think I'm having a conversation with a real person, but I'm not. It's not a person. But should it be? Someone would say, "No, that's a stupid job. Why would I want to do sales? Like, why would I want to be the bot that does the robo dialing or whatever it is?" Right? But that is someone's job, and a lot of sales is relationships, human interactions. So how would you feel if you build a relationship with someone that's not real? And we do it all the time. That's what catfishing is. And how do you feel when you find out someone you've built an emotional connection with, rapport with, turns out not to be real? And so we have to think about what this all means. And we're like, oh, we can't end TikTok because of all these influencers that have made a whole livelihood on TikTok. And I asked this question, well, why couldn't they go to Instagram? Why can't they go to Reels? What about Twitter? What about YouTube? Anywhere else? Why can't they have the same following? Just follow me on YouTube. You can doom scroll on all of those apps. You can doom scroll anywhere. Why wouldn't you do that? And it should be easy. They're all reposting on all of those platforms. And you go, well, they don't pay me as much. And so you have to wonder, why is it that TikTok can pay so much more than every other application? Why is it that they're making so much money on TikTok? And I go to the whole, live golf thing. We don't question at all why these octogenarian golfers are making so much money, why they're making got $100 million contract to do fuck all. Like, we don't question it. We don't question why they got so rich. What is it that they're actually selling? And there was the old adage, if the thing you're using is free, the product is you. And so influencers think that the product is someone else. No, the influencer is the product on TikTok. And if we think that we can all protect our likenesses like what they were negotiating for in the Hollywood strikes, we signed all sorts of waivers. I have no idea what's in these terms and conditions. I don't know how much of me is owned by Meta or X or Snapchat or Google or whatever. We all just hit accept.
Nobody reads that stuff.
Right, nobody reads that stuff. So, again, do I have any rights to my likeness? Does it matter? Would they even copy my likeness? Can anyone copy my likeness? I don't know what I own now. Is there any value to my selfness? And and so we have to start looking at these things. So I end it with, we need to ask a lot more questions, and we need to demand a lot more answers of leadership, of our government, because our government, the whole point of a government is to raise standard living for the citizens under its jurisdiction. That literally is its whole point. People think it's just security. No, the whole point of a government is to establish the rules by which a society lives such that the society can have ever increasing standard of living. Right? When we have security, we have increased standard of living, right? When we have better economics, we all have increased standard of living. Our standard of living on aggregate is falling. Our government is not doing its job. We're not looking for our government to do its job. Our standards of living should be rising. It's not. So our government's not doing our job. Our tech leaders are disincentivized. Like, it doesn't behoove them to increase our standard of living, except that, you know, when you have increasing income inequality, you create economic instability, which creates violent volatility in a society. So the only benefit they would have to making sure humans are doing okay, such that they're not angry with pitchforks, is to figure out how to utilize human intelligence and value it, not exploit it, value it, give it purpose, would be for their own physical safety. And we're seeing that already, right? The backlash to CEOs can be swift and intense and violent. And that's not just now, that's history. Go back, find all of those. There are lots of sultans that have been murdered, lots of oligarchs that have been murdered, lots of governments that have been toppled for this very reason. But we need to demand more answers from tech leaders. And if you are in that space and you're getting laid off, we need to demand better. Those severance packages better be fucking amazing. They better be amazing. And if you're not fighting for that, and we're not fighting for some of these things to be addressed, we very quickly can go to a place where we don't know who we are anymore. And I don't know if that matters, but I think it matters, because purposeless people who don't know who they are also hopeless people. And there are 8 billion of us, and we have to have a reason to have purpose and hope. So, if you've come to the end of this, a full hour and a half, ask yourself some questions. I'm not asking you to change. I'm not asking you to storm the Bastille. I'm asking you to look within yourself and go, when the world changes again, and it's going to change, and it's going to change very quickly, how will you find self? And what would you want for the future of AI and generative AI? Where would you put the guardrails in? Where would you put the limitations in? And maybe together we'll all start to come to some consensus and start having these harder conversations. So with that, thank you for listening. I hope it was interesting. Make sure to like and subscribe and listen again. I don't know that next week will be as interesting, but I'll try. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you love this episode, or if you at least didn't hate it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss what's coming next. And hey, share it with your friends, share it with your family. Until next time, stay bold, stay real, peace out, deuces, and keep speaking your mind. See you soon.